It's too late. It's too saturated. You won't make money. If right now you're finding yourself in a difficult spot where these voices are making you doubt your journey, you're in the right place. Call it making videos, call it cinematography, call it whatever you want. It doesn't matter what you choose to call yourself. If you have any interest in building a sustainable career in the filmmaking space, you will run into the same challenges, potentially make the same mistakes, and hopefully power through with passion and perseverance, so that you can look back and say, wow, it's been 15 years. Cheers to 15 more. Ask anyone who's been doing this as long as I have, and there's a good chance that they will agree with what I'm about to share with you. I recently made a video sharing career advice for filmmakers, and the response was so overwhelmingly positive that I felt inspired to build on it and create a follow-up. So that's what this is, career advice for filmmakers. It doesn't matter if you're new or have been going at it for a few years now. My hope is that you will learn from my experience, and hopefully it will add real value going forward. It's important to understand that, like everything in the world, there will always be different seasons and phases. Ask anyone who has tasted success and they will quickly tell you that they all went through this, that there were times where they questioned themselves and whether or not they should carry on. I can't tell you how many times I've wanted to quit and give up on filmmaking, but somehow I always found new passion and energy to carry on and take my business to new heights. There are a few factors that contribute to why you would feel like this, but arguably one of the greatest is money. When the juice is not worth the squeeze and the effort is not worth the reward, how much money you make compared to the effort you put in will always play a massive role in long-term fulfillment. When everything is still new and the passion is strong, it's easy to say, I don't care about money, I just want to enjoy the work. But if you work your butt off for an extended period of time and you don't feel like you're moving forward, a lack of financial compensation will be the first thing to kill your passion or cause burnout because you have to work so much. I remember it like it was yesterday, the moment these words popped into my head. Money talks. It's a fact that the moment I started making more money, I was instantly more motivated. I've done some pretty difficult shoots in my life, but the ones where I felt properly compensated were always a lot easier because I knew at the end of the day, I would go home with money in the bank. Money is such a powerful and practical motivator to push through difficult projects because you will always enjoy the reward after. There are 3 reasons why you're not making enough money with the projects you do. Number 1, you are undercharging because you don't know your worth. Number 2, you're not offering something unique. And number 3, your branding is turning clients off. All 3 of these problems can be solved if you really set your mind to it. So let me share some practical examples from my own career. For the first 5 years, I was the king of undercharging. And that's because I really didn't have a clue of what my work was worth. In my previous video about filmmaking advice, I hammered on how important it is to be in a network with fellow filmmakers and people that can be considered competition. A turning point for me was when I met Andy. At the time, he was one of the leading wedding videographers in South Africa, doing the biggest and most expensive weddings. We became friends and he took on a mentorship role. When he found out how much I was charging, he almost shouted at me and said, dude, you need to increase your prices right now. Double it, triple it, but whatever you do, don't do another shoot at the same prices. I instantly took his advice and went from double to triple in a few weeks. And lo and behold, I kept getting booked. So how does this look for you? You have to make it your aim to find out where the threshold lies in your industry so you can charge on par with standard rates or even higher. The moment you start getting more money for doing the same amount of work, you will see your motivation levels soar to new heights. Now let's say you are charging industry rates, but you're not getting booked. This could be the result of not offering something unique or your branding letting you down. Offering something unique can come in many shapes and sizes. It could be an editing style, the way you color grade, or even the way you shoot. If you want to stand out, you'll need to research what people in your industry are doing and try to pinpoint where you can one-up them with one of your strengths. When I still did weddings, I was one of the first videographers to film entire weddings on DSLRs, and at the time, it was considered too risky and too difficult. That alone gave me an edge, but once everyone jumped onto the DSLR train, I started elevating my videos by utilizing a bunch of gear no one else was using. I started lighting intentionally, I used mini jibs, and I learned how to properly balance and use a glide cam, long before the arrival of gimbals. At that time, it gave me an edge. As I transitioned out of weddings into the travel space, I made a point of going to places where most people can't or won't. Places that are difficult to access, require intense hiking, or just a lot of effort. If it's easy, everyone will do it comes to mind. So I chose to do the difficult things. This really elevated my brand and landed me a gig with an international client in Iceland, and the rest was history. A few years and a pandemic later, I decided to give it a shot at doing YouTube. Now here's what most people told me. It's just too late, man. Everything has been done and everything has been said. Well, 336,000 subscribers later, I can confidently say that they were wrong. So what made the difference? I took the time to do some proper research, and as a consumer of YouTube videos myself, I asked the following question. What is wrong and how am I going to fix it? I quickly realized that there was a need for a no BS approach to filmmaking tutorials, where I talk less about myself and simply provide my audience the value that they are looking for. This didn't automatically mean I would make it. I still had to watch a ton of videos about a topic and identify one or two key things everyone was missing. Every time I did this, the video did well because I managed to fill a gap. If you want to stand out in any industry, you have to be willing to do what no one else is doing, or go where no one else is going, or say what no one else is saying. Think about Sam Calder, Daniel Schiffer, or Peter McKinnon. At one point in time, they were doing something that no one else was doing, or they simply did it the best. Even if you do what everyone else is doing, if you do it in your own unique style, with your own expression, chances are higher that you're going to get more conversions. We can't all be like Gorgs, but doing research and thinking outside the box is a must in this day and age where markets are more saturated than ever. On the topic of branding, the last thing I'm referring to is your website and logo. Branding to me comes down to the first impression a client gets when they encounter you online. Research has shown that social media is still the first point of contact, and I see so many creatives getting this part wrong. Although the world is crying out for a less curated, authentic expression, this is simply not the case when it comes to potential clients. It's really important to curate your online presence in a portfolio-like fashion, because clients do not care about your personal life. They care about the work that you can do for them. It's not just about how your portfolio looks, but about the kind of work you're putting out there. Instead of sharing every single project you do, how about only sharing the ones that reflect the highest quality and most production value? When you put more than one video out there that aligns with what a client wants, conversion is much easier. And this is why it's important to lock into a niche or a consistent style that inspires confidence, because the client can see that it's not your first time and that you will be able to do the same for them. Now, I'm just touching the surface here, but these principles really elevated my brand. Your brand perception is also influenced by how you tell stories, and a crucial element in storytelling is music. So I want to take a moment and talk about it. Earlier I mentioned that in order to stand out, you need to be unique, which means that you can't be using the same music that everyone else is using. You need to find unique songs that elevate your projects, and this is where Musicbed is simply the best. In the 11 years I've been using the platform, I've always been able to create projects with music my clients never heard of, but really enjoyed. If I'm honest, I would say during this time, I've had less music changes than what I have fingers. That's 9 changes in 11 years. Back when I did weddings, it was one of the things that set me apart. I used high quality music that my clients and their loved ones heard for the first time. Music filled with emotion that drove many couples to tears. This simply carried over into my transition into the travel space. And to this day, music is always something I get compliments about. Their innovative search tools, including an AI-powered search by song feature, simplify the process of finding not only one, not two, but all the songs to match your vision. I've said it before and I will say it again. Musicbed has completely transformed my storytelling. If you're a creator looking to connect deeply with your audience, I cannot recommend it enough. Make the switch today and start your 14-day free trial with the link in my description. Now I want to bring all of this together with one final point that I really believe everyone needs to hear. There's nothing that will steal your joy and deprave your passion like comparison. For some of you, this could very much be the main reason you're not stoked with where you are. During my trip with Sam Calder in the mountains, I had a brief moment where I did this. I was 32 at the time and Sam was 22. He had the world at his feet and everything he touched turned into gold. I found myself at the bottom of the Dunning-Kruger curve and I realized that I wasted years chasing followers on Instagram. If I kept entertaining the idea, it would suffocate me, but instead, I let it inspire me. There's a video that I watch at least once a year. I will link it in the description below, but it still gets me every single time. It's a film created by Daniel Sachs, narrated by the famous Ira Glass. I urge you to go and watch it, because I know you will find it encouraging. It's about the gap between the work you're doing right now and the work of the people you look up to. We all have work that we aspire to create one day. We also have the sense to realize that what we're making doesn't live up to that standard. If you don't look with the right glasses, your passion will deteriorate over time and your desire to create will diminish. What most people don't realize is that literally everyone goes through this at some point in time. The only way to close the gap is to put in the time, do the research, and be intentional about your goals. I've done this for 15 years now, and more than ever I realize how big the gap is. What I've also realized is that the gap between where I used to be is even bigger. So it's a case of glass half full. So what is the secret? It's simple. Stop comparing and start celebrating. One of the most liberating actions you can do as a creative is to celebrate the work of others. When I watch a film by Elliot Grafton or Raylan Joey, my first reaction is, wow, these guys are next level. But just before I start comparing myself, I make an intentional effort to celebrate them, and I solidify it by actually commenting on their work. You have to remember that everyone has their own journey, and what you're seeing online is only the highlights. Focus on your own life. Work hard, put in the effort, and above all else, cultivate your passion, because at the end of the day, passion means that you're willing to suffer for it.